Hi, and welcome back to this web series on System Center Operations Manager 2012 R2, covering installation and configuration. My name is Daniel Queen, and this isn't exactly part 5 yet, but I decided to post up a small part 4.5 where I make a lot of excuses as to why it's been so long since I've posted a video, but to also cover a few points that came to mind after recording part 4. First of all, like I said, I want to say I'm sorry to all my viewers, people who are actually following this web series. It's taken me so long to get these next parts recorded. Family, holidays, you know how it is. But for, a better reason for all that is I did have to rebuild my lab system from the ground up. Well, mostly. In the previous videos, I was running Windows 7 and VirtualBox was my hypervisor for running all of my lab systems. I've since upgraded to Windows 8.1 and I'm now using Hyper-V to run all my stuff. Of course, I lost most of my work and I just scrapped everything, rebuilt it from the ground up for part 5 going forward. Actually, let me just show you real fast. So this is my basic setup here for the lab work that we're going to be doing. I made the jump to Hyper-V mostly because I wanted to take advantage of the virtual switch manager. It's more user friendly in my opinion, and dynamic memory helps out quite a bit in letting me run more VMs simultaneously. I mean, good grief, I'm running a couple DCs, a SQL server, the single instance running 2 databases, a SCOM server with management server installed, and operations console, which is probably what's chewing up my CPU right now, and like just a plain Jane server doing nothing. And it's only chewing through 9 gigs of memory right now, and that's with my host laptop also, and only about 6% CPU. So I'm getting quite a bit more bang for my buck using Hyper-V. The only part I'm not getting bang for my buck is on disk space. It seems like the VHDX take up more room than the VDIs, but I digress. So you can see that it's mostly the same as we've worked with before. I didn't really change the server names much. I did accidentally name our first management server slightly different. It was XL-SCOM MS01, now it is XL-SCOM01. But besides that, I believe everything else is pretty much identical. We're still running xlab.com, and we're going to be using nutbolt.com as our sort of extranet to demonstrate gateway servers in part 5, which is coming shortly after this video. A couple other points that I wanted to bring up after watching the previous parts was a bit of an addendum to part 4. First thing I wanted to cover is that you don't, and you probably should not, leave all of those database port or server ports opened for our SQL database that we opened up back in part 3. You do need to, of course, leave 1433 open or 1434 if you're running a named instance. But all the rest of them you don't really need to leave open, and your DBAs would probably appreciate it if you didn't leave them open, although they probably are already open in most enterprise organizations anyway. But you don't have to leave them open, especially for SCOM to continue functioning. You just don't need them after the installation is done. The next thing I wanted to cover is 2 points. One, I've seen this happen every time I install 2012, and I'll go over a fix real quick. The data access service tends to have problems registering its own service principal name. It's a quick fix, and SCOM tells you how to fix it, but I'll go ahead and show you anyways. And the last thing is that if you remember in part 4, I got a warning when it installed the management server, and it said it was because it was running the evaluation version. Well, I've moved all of my Windows servers and everything from an eval to retail, and even though I'm running SCOM 2012 R2 retail, it still installs as evaluation version, and it expects you to install it as evaluation version and then use the set SCOM license commandlet, PowerShell commandlet, to change it from evaluation to retail. So I want to go through that real quick too. So let me just jump in real fast. I've already got this running, and you can see here I've got my console opened up, and this is the first thing I wanted to show you: the data access service principal name not registered. And I know that it's probably pretty difficult to see all this because I don't have it in full screen, but this will go fast. I've seen, like I said, I've seen this every single time because my data access service account does not have rights to register its own service principal name. So we're just going to do it for it. And like I said, it tells you down here in the resolutions exactly what to do. So we're just going to do it real fast. And I'm really just going to type exactly what it says. If you want to check it first, like I said, it tells you exactly what to do. Set SPN dash capital L, the net BIOS name, which would be XL SCOM 01. And what we're looking for is MSOM SDK SVC, back when it was still the SDK config service. And you can see it's not there, so we need to register it manually. So I'm going to use the command set spn-a, which actually in R2 is deprecated, I believe. Now it should be -s. -a used to be for add. I don't actually remember what S is for, but -a is actually deprecated now. You should be using S. And in fact, you could probably figure out what exactly S means in R2. Will register spin if it does not exist. So it's just, it has the error checking built in. If it already exists, it won't re-register it. So I guess you can see A is not even in here anymore. So anyone who's really been using set SPN before using -a, it's deprecated now. So just keep that in mind. So set SPN-S now, MSOM SDKSVC slash the management server net BIOS name, which will be XL SCOM 01, and then space and the net BIOS name again, XL SCOM 01. There we go. And I am logged in as an account that is a domain admin currently, so I of course have rights to run this command. We're going to do the same thing again, and the only difference is that after MSOM SDK SVC slash the management server name, it's going to be the fully qualified domain name instead of the net BIOS name. So .xlab.com for me, space, and then still the net BIOS name. Hit enter, and now when we do -l, we can see that the service principal names are in fact registered now. And what you could do if you want to get rid of this, although this may just be a rule. Yeah, actually this is just a rule, and so this will not necessarily auto close. Yes, this is a rule. It's not a monitor, so this will not auto close. After given the default settings, after 7 days, the alert source is healthy, it will close on its own. Honestly, I can just close this myself. If you were to restart the data access service, then that alert should not come back. But I am confident that it will not, so I'm not going to bother restarting that right now. Now, the next thing I did promise, looking back over here, was to show you the set SCOM license commandlet. So you'll notice if you click on the top level of monitoring up here, it does say upgrade to full version. And if you click on this, well, it's going to try and take me to a Microsoft site, which I don't have internet access in my lab. So that's going to take me nowhere. So what we need to do to upgrade for the full version, like I said, this is the retail version. This is using the retail version ISO, but it still thinks it's the evaluation version. So what I want to show you is a couple things. We're going to go into the Operations Manager shell, which really is just PowerShell with profile and whatnot already loaded. And this is taking quite a bit of time to load. There we go. So what we can do is we can do get SCOM license. And that will show you the license terms and whatnot. So that will show you the terms Now, if you want to check what the current license status is, there is a command, which is get SCOM management group, which will load the management group, and we're going to pipe that, and we're going to get the SKU for license version time of expiration, and that will tell me that, hey, it's an eval license, and it's going to expire in about a month. So that's no good. We want to actually set our product ID here. Now, the command for this is set-scom license. And of course, it's going to ask for the product ID, which would be your product ID. Now, interestingly enough, if you type this, it doesn't really tell you one little caveat about this commandlet, which is, if you were to run this from the Operations Manager shell, which would seem like the normal thing to do, you will get an error, because part of what this commandlet is trying to do, and what it will do, is set some registry keys. So the default Operations Manager shell does not, well, you're not in an elevated PowerShell prompt, so it does not have rights to write to the registry. So we say, okay, well, let's run this as administrator. And this is probably going to take a minute to load, but what you'll see is our pathing is messed up, and it's not going to end up loading any of our modules. Yep, there you go. See, you're going to get all kinds of errors. So what do? We are going to go down just to a normal PowerShell prompt, right-click, run as administrator, which will give us the registry access we need, but we need to load our SCOM PowerShell modules first. So we're going to type import dash module space dash name space operations manager. And that should load our modules in pretty short order. Okay, well, this doesn't do us any good without actually making a connection to the environment. Otherwise, we'll be setting our product ID on nothing. So we need to do new dash SCOM management group connection space dash computer space and the name of our management server here, XL SCOM 01. Okay, so now we've made connection to our management group. So now that we are connected to the management group, we can run this command, get dash SCOM management group space pipe space FT space, and then these options here, which should get us the current status of our license, which shows that we are currently running eval. That's the version of SCOM, and this is our expiration. You can see I've got about a little less than a month before it expires on me, so that's no good. So the command we're going to be using is set space SCOM license, and if we just type it here, it'll prompt us for the product ID, or we were to run get help dash product ID. So there we go, dash product ID, and this is where you would type in your product ID. Now, of course, I'm not going to give you my key to it, so I'm going to pause real quick while I enter this in. I'll be right back. Okay, so after punching in the product ID, you'll get a short confirmation message. You type Y and hit enter. It will apply your product ID to the environment, and after a restart, you got to restart the management server, otherwise it won't show you your changes taking effect. But after a restart, you can now rerun this command here, and you can see that you are running the retail version, and your expiration is a long, long ways off. So now, if we are to run our console, we will see that we are no longer prompted to upgrade to the full version. See, it is now missing. So I think that's the last things I wanted to cover in this bit here. So like I said, I am truly sorry that I've made y'all wait so long, and I promise, part 5 will be coming shortly after this, probably within the next day or so. Um, so be watching for that. I went over the changes to the lab environment. Pretty much everything's the same. Not much is different. We went over, talk about closing the firewall ports from part 3 and 4. We covered the service principal name registration problems, and we covered setting the SCOM license to make it into a retail version. Well, that's all, and like I said, watch for part 5, and we'll see you in the next part. Thanks.